GrokTALK is 2 hours of news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com. But don't limit yourself to GrokTALK. Check us out at GraniteGrok.com. Follow us on Facebook or Twitter by searching Granite Grok.
GrokTALK.
Skip is dialing the senator as I speak. Welcome back to GrokTALK.
Does that mean we have to fill?
No, yes, it does. Well, here, this is Saturday in the Park. I was going to say it's Saturday on the Grok.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, you're all set? Okay. All right. Very good. We're going to... Don't do that. There we go. People... Mike, discipline. Welcome back to GrokTALK. My name's Steve McDonald. I am here with Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, and Richard H. Olson Jr.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And we are very happy to have on the line with us Senator Bob Smith. Senator, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Hey, good morning, Senator.
Good morning to all of you.
It's great to have you on. We haven't had you on for a couple of months, but it's good to have you back.
I know it. I wish I could come on every day. You guys are great patriots.
Well, thank you very much. It's good to have you on. So, how's the campaign going?
Going well. We got we got the grassroots building, and the conservatives seem to be coming our way, which is great news. You know, the Tea Party folks and gun owners and Right to Life and so many other groups that are anti-tax groups and 9/12. We've met, with all of them along the line somewhere, and hopefully we can keep picking up the momentum. It's a grassroots effort against a lot of big money and the establishment. You know how that works.
Oh, yeah.
The establishment, yes.
So what's your calendar look like in the next week?
Oh, well, taking a couple of days off through the Easter Sunday, and then on the ground again at the latest Wednesday morning, maybe before that. But we'll be. I just need to get a little time. It's not time off as much as it is just planning and sorting out things for the next phase, which is between now and June, middle of June, when the filing ends, and we'll know who's in and who's out. But it's been really, really positive. It's just that the establishment, recruited Brown, brought him into the primary, as you know, and I can't seem to find anything that he supports conservative Republicans on. But I guess everybody has an opportunity to look us over now. This should be an interesting fight.
Yeah, I have to tell you, Senator, I was just remarking to somebody yesterday. I said, there's only really two candidates in this race that have a national record on the Second Amendment: Scott Brown, Senator Bob Smith. Need I say more? I mean, yeah. Really?
Well, especially, I don't know, since you're on that subject, don't let me dictate your schedule or whatever you want to do, but on the subject of the Second Amendment, I mean, this latest outrage by Michael Bloomberg to spend $50 million to take on the NRA and the gun rights groups, and saying he's going to make them afraid of us. This is very interesting. I was shocked I wasn't shocked that Bloomberg did it. I mean, if he's going to ban large Pepsis, he's probably going to be in favor of banning guns too. What the heck? It's just another little thing in his long list. But the interesting thing about Bloomberg is he had a real highfalutin fundraiser for Scott Brown when Brown was running for the Senate in Massachusetts, and he endorsed Brown. And the interesting thing was where the two reasons that he gave for endorsing him was, one, because he didn't vote Republican that often, and the other was because of his disagreement with the Republican Party on the issue of guns, on the Second Amendment, specifically the reciprocity law, which basically puts people in jail for coming into their state with a firearm that's legal in another state. So this is Bloomberg, and he's endorsing. He endorsed, Scott Brown. I don't know if he's endorsed him in this race, but he certainly did then. And then Brown's comment was even more shocking to me that Bloomberg is a true independent who always puts progress over politics. So you read between the lines, and what Brown is saying, that he's going to restrict the rights of gun owners, and that's progress, but protecting the Second Amendment, that's politics. So if that's the way the gun owners of New Hampshire feel, which I know it is not, then we're certainly going to have to send Mr. Brown a message on September the 9th.
I couldn't agree more. You know, the interesting thing is, in New Hampshire here, I'm one of the activists for Second Amendment issues, and whenever there's an opportunity that presents itself, we will post on social media a photograph of Scott Brown and Bloomberg together. We will highlight his record. We will quote his quotes he's made on so-called assault weapons ban, that faux term they like to use.
But yep. And he was wrong on that. You're right. But, you know, I read somewhere, and I could be wrong. I read so much here, but I thought I read somewhere where he was going to address the gun owners of New Hampshire, Brown, in the near future somewhere. And I cannot imagine them having any support for this guy. I mean, it's amazing. But hopefully, you know, we'll see what he says. I guess he can make himself sound like Ronald Reagan when he talks. But you're right. There were only 2 senators that had any national action on it, and that was Brown and myself. You know, there are other people in the race who are pro-gun, but I think the issue is, you know, I can only bring what I bring to the table, and that is an 18-year record of an A-plus 100% rating from the Gun Owners of America and the National Rifle Association. And, you know, we're going to have to rally around one to knock Brown off. If 3 of us split up the gun vote, if Karen Testerman and myself and Jim Rubin split up the gun vote, we're going to lose to Brown. I mean, we've got to be united on that. And, you know, with all modesty, I think I'm the best person to do it because of my own background in terms of a proven entity on this subject.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so well, I think we've set our pieces on Scott Brown, and believe me, we tried to give him a respectful hearing, and we couldn't get him to say anything. So that was the point when we dipped our barrel in the well of poison pixels and got to work. But you know, I mean, if I thought that he could A, hold 70 or 80% conservative line, and B, guarantee to beat Jeanne Shaheen, I wouldn't be so anti. But I'm not so sure he's guaranteed to beat Jeanne Shaheen, and I am sure he's going to hold a conservative line. So what we're looking at here is, you know, we've got 3 fairly decent conservatives here. We agree with all of you on most things and disagree with most of you on odd things. And this is about getting our readers to be as well informed as possible. We almost need a pre-primary to which the participants would agree to go all for one and one for all on the results. I don't know if we can construct that, but in the meantime, you know, you've told us what you're all about with the Second Amendment, Senator, and we're very grateful for that. There's obviously a few people that object to the fact that you changed your party affiliation briefly, and I don't see a whole lot wrong with being independent, by the way, when the party doesn't back you. Basically, what's your main selling point here, aside from strong Second Amendment support, to pull New Hampshire conservatives and also the youth and the libertarians onto your bandwagon?
I think I'll answer that directly. Quickly 30-second response to your point on leaving the party. Yeah, the Republican Party platform I agree with almost 100%. I can't think of anything I disagree on. It wasn't the platform. I left because people like Scott Brown were not then, but now. But Scott Brown type Republicans who were leading us astray, going away from the issues and caving to Bill Clinton. And I wanted to make a point that if we do that, we're going to sacrifice our power, our incumbency, if you will, and we will lose the support of those rank and file people out there across the country. And that's exactly what happened. We were caving in on guns, we were caving in on the life issue, we were caving in on a number of issues, taxes, spending, judges, all down the line, and it was just very frustrating, and that's exactly what Ted Cruz and others are dealing with right now, Rand Paul and others, and Mike Lee, they're all dealing with the same issue right now. It's a minority within a minority. This is what we have to change. So as far as what I would do on other issues, I mean, look, there are so many. I mean, if you go down the line, and you have to compare yourself with Brown because he is the first step. I mean, I have to win the primary and in order to face Shaheen. But if I could contrast it real quickly and very simply, you have Scott Brown and Jeanne Shaheen in the Liberal Democrat Party being anti-gun. I'm pro-gun. You have Scott Brown and Jeanne Shaheen in favor of Dodd-Frank, which is a regulatory nightmare on small business, specifically financial services, like small community banks and people who are doing the financial services throughout the state and the country. He voted for that along with Shaheen, and I'm opposed to it. He voted 62% of the time with the Democrats as a U.S. Senator. I voted 98.5% of the time with the Republicans as a U.S. Senator over 18 years. He did it over, 62% over 2 years. So, you go down the line on these issues, not to mention the right to life, and which he's opposed to the party platform on that. And, there's so many issues. I just don't understand why why the National Republican Party pushed so hard at the establishment level to get him there. If he gives us a vote for leadership, okay, but what do you win? If you're going to put somebody in there who's just going to give you a vote on leadership and then vote against you 62% of the time, that's not good, obviously. So, and the business about him winning, that's nonsense. Scott Brown will not win. If he's nominee, he will not win. The only way the Republicans win is when they stick to their principles of less spending, less regulation, more freedom. That's what this race is about. It's the central planners, the kind that Jeanne Shaheen and Scott Brown want to run your life, take your guns, do your, increase regulations, increase taxes, versus freedom, the right to have your children grow up in freedom. He does agree. We do agree. Brown and I do agree on the health care issue, on Obamacare. We both want to repeal it. However, he did vote for Romney Care, which was the forerunner to it. So you wonder whether it's the politics of convenience now that everybody's opposed to it. He's opposed to it. I don't know. That's for him to tell you. But I just believe that if we want to win and do something to change the country, instead of kicking the can down the road and spending more and more money and getting more and more regulation and less freedom, if you want to change it, then I'm the guy that's going to do it.
Okay, Senator, we're going to take 60 seconds. Stay on the line, and we'll be right back.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by saberpac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
All right, we're back with Senator Bob Smith.
Well, Senator, you sound like us. Burn the party down and put in some people that will actually vote the party line instead of people that say they represent the party and won't vote the party line.
Well, party line when the party line is correct. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not a party guy all the way. I mean, there are Republicans who have gone astray, to say the least, such as our illustrious Supreme Court guy, John Roberts, who gave us the Obamacare with his silly vote. But we're not, Republicans aren't always right, but what I meant by that is to say that on the traditional conservative values of our party, we got to stick together, otherwise we lose.
Absolutely. You know, going back to the Scott Brown coming with hat in hand to the gun voters here in New Hampshire, I'm very well tied in with that particular constituency, Senator, and I can tell you right now, a lot of them are under the belief that he's coming to try and get that vote. And he is a fast talker. I watched him work Theo's in Manchester, and, he's pretty slick. I call him Slickster. And as far as the gun voters go, they're believing that a leopard doesn't change its stripes. So, he can come and he can make his case, but I believe this is going to be more of a showcasing of Scott Brown than it is him making his case.
How uncomfortable is he going to feel in a room full of all those armed people?
Yeah, not to mention it's people like me that are going to be asking the questions.
Mm-hmm. On the reciprocity issue, basically he's supporting people being put in prison.
Yeah.
For carrying a weapon. If you carry your weapon from here into Massachusetts will arrest you for having your weapon, which is legal in New Hampshire, and it's bizarre. And I don't know how anybody who supports the Second Amendment could support this guy. I don't know what my concern is. What line has he got prepared for you? He's coming in. I give him credit for coming in and speaking. That takes guts. But the question is, what is he up to? And he'll probably have a good line for you. I hope it's not good enough that you'll swallow it. But
Senator, this is Skip, and I'm going to switch the topic just a little bit. Instead of just running, let's assume that you've already won the general election and you are back down in D.C. We watch the Inside Baseball not only here in New Hampshire but also down in D.C. as well. My question is, who would you be caucusing with? Because there's all these, there's a caucus for this issue, a caucus for that issue, and all of this. But as I look at things, I look at the political spectrum within the Senate, and I go, which bunch of folks would you be fitting in with better than others? There's the leadership kind of folks, there's the Tea Party kind of folks, there's this, that, and the other thing. Where would you be fitting in?
Well, of course, I dealt with this when I was in office before, where you basically were a minority within the minority, or if the Republicans had control of the Senate, a minority within the majority, which is unfortunate. To be specific, guys like Mike Lee of Utah, Rand Paul of Kentucky, Jeff Sessions of Alabama, Jim Inhofe of Oklahoma, Ted Cruz of Texas. These are the guys that I would be aligned with, for not only philosophically but also operationally. We need, if we don't do what these guys want to do and do it soon, we're going to lose our country. And I feel bad. I've talked to almost all of them. I don't want to be specific about who I spoke with, but I can assure you that I've spoke with most of the names that I just gave you, and those guys are very, very frustrated. It was the reason why probably that Jim DeMint left and went to Heritage. It's frustrating to be, the Senate is a delaying organization, and you get impatient because you want to make change. And they know, as I know, that if we don't make change soon and stop kicking the can down the road, especially on the budgetary garbage that goes on, where you pass a 5-year budget, put all the cuts in the 5th year, and then next year pass another 5-year budget and put all the cuts in the 5th year, and then brag about all the cuts you made in the budget that you passed. Or even worse, you propose a 5% increase in the national budget, cut the 5% back to 3%, and claim you had a 2% cut. This is the kind of game. These are the kinds of games that are played in D.C. And I know what's going on, and I would be a very senior member because of my past experience in the Senate. So I would be able to join these guys and be very effective. Hopefully we're going to get more and more like us in the Senate down the road. And they're not going to be able to throw me in the corner and say, okay, well, you're a junior senator, shut up and listen and learn, and so be it. We got to remember that there's a lot of debt that has piled on this country since I left office last time in 2003. So it isn't just Democrats that are doing it to us. So we need to correct that, and I'm a strong advocate of the Tea Party. You know what frustrates me is when some people in our party are so hostile about the Tea Party element. I mean, when I ran in the last time in 2002, there were no Tea Party elements here, but I like to say I was kind of Tea Party before Tea Party was cool with what I said about the party when I left briefly for a few months to make a point. And I welcome people like that. These are fiscally conservative people who care about the debt we're leaving our children. I've met with hundreds of them in the last 3 or 4 months here in New Hampshire, all over the state. They're fantastic people. They care. They really care. They want to change. They don't want to just go down and kick the can down the road, be it a Democrat or a Republican. And they're wonderful people, and they're dedicated and committed patriots, and I'm proud to have their support. And I don't understand why anybody in the Republican Party establishment would want to kick these people out or keep them from becoming a part of our team. They are what's going to change the country, and really true change, not the Obama change, but real change that matters to save our country, to save our freedoms, and to basically stick to the Constitution. That's what they're about, and that's what I'm about. So I welcome their support.
Right. In fact, the reverse is true. They get angry with us when we suggest that we might not support their worthless candidates. They expect our blind allegiance and support to the Republican Party, and they resent the fact that we actually have views which are effectively their party platform.
I don't understand it. You're right. That's exactly correct. And they say, they actually say that not only that we don't want you, we don't want you involved, and we're somehow roadblocks to bipartisanship and all that. Well, bipartisanship is fine on certain issues. When you get to, as Reagan said, you fight like the devil to get the whole loaf, and then if at some point you have to get a half of the loaf, we'll take it and come back and get the other half tomorrow. But the point is that that's not what they're about. What they're about is it's what I call the good old boys, the old bulls. That's the network. Get what we can get. I remember a Republican senator who's now deceased one day coming into so I'll protect him from, because he can't defend himself, but he said he came into one of these conference committees one day. He was a Republican. He was the chairman of the conference because Republicans had control. So we had a conference committee now which was going to dole out the money. He slammed his fist down on the table. He said, "I want $250 million for this project in my state," and he named the project. And he said, "When I get it, when you guys decide to give it to me, I'll come back in the room and start the meeting." And he got up and walked out. Now that's the way things are going on down there, and I'm not going to put up with it. And I know that guys like Mike Lee and Rand Paul and others who feel the same way, they need help, and we need to turn that minority in a majority into a majority in the majority if we're truly going to change America and restore our freedoms and protect our Constitution. And with the greatest respect, because I respect anybody who runs for office, but the greatest respect with Scott Brown, he's not going to do that. And I hope that the voters can see that he's not going to do it. Anybody who would vote for Dodd-Frank or something as repulsive as that is to Republican values, strangling small business, and be against the Second Amendment, this guy is not going to change things in the direction that we want them changed.
Quick question, Senator. There are several things that people will talk about during the campaign, and I'm going to twist it a little bit. What are the 3 topmost things that you would do that we could hold you accountable to, that you would be willing to sacrifice the rest of your political career for? A number of Democrats did that for Obamacare, where they said, we believe this is the right thing for our ideology, and they voted for it and they got kicked out. But what kinds of things would you be doing for liberty and freedom that we could measure you against?
Well, that I do respect them for that. Even though I disagree with them 100%, I respect them for standing up for what they believed in. When I used to debate Ted Kennedy and Barbara Boxer and others when I was there, they stood up for what they believed in. They weren't squishes. They believed in what they believed. I believe they were wrong, but we had our fights, and So you have to respect that. But I think to go to your point, we are losing our freedoms. We must stand up and say, are these pieces of legislation that we're passing constitutional? I mean, if they're not constitutional, we ought not to be voting for them. And first and secondly, let's read. Let's have time, reasonable, to read bills so that we can make an intelligent decision on them. So I think if you want an answer where I could be where people could feel comfortable who are Tea Party folks or libertarians, as you mentioned earlier, who believe that in more freedom and less government, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to vote for anything. I'm not going to vote for anything that would provide more restriction on our freedoms and more government to control our freedoms. Specifically, repeal Obamacare, try to get the debt and get the budget balanced, which I could support a balanced budget amendment if necessary. We shouldn't need one, but if that's what it takes, I'll do it. And also promote good growth policies by eliminating the capital gains tax, cutting tax brackets, tax rates, and so forth, to bring down the regulation and tax burden that's on most of small business in America, so that by doing that, you will produce more revenues coupled with reasonable cuts, and we'll get to that path where they'll meet, and the budget will be balanced, and then we can begin to pay down the debt. One other specific... I
got to interrupt you, Senator, because
Okay.
we're out of time. Could you give us some contact information real quick? You got about 20 seconds.
Bob Smith for USSenate.com. Bob Smith for USSenate.com.
Okay, my music's not playing. Oh, there it is. Well, Senator Smith, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us. We'll probably have you on again.
All right, look forward to it. Thank you.
For now, you have a great weekend.
You too. Happy Easter.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, that's GrokTALK Segment 3. Coming up, Jerry DeLemus live from Bunkerville, Nevada at the Bundy Ranch. We'll be right back.
GrokTALK.
Steve McDonald here. You ever notice how Democrats like to create problems so they can then claim to solve them? Take Medicaid expansion, for example. Even if the federal government keeps its promise to New Hampshire to pay for most of it, it'll still cost New Hampshire taxpayers tens of millions of dollars more to provide inferior care and coverage to people who, for the most part, would never have needed it if Democrats hadn't reformed health care in the first place. That's right, that real expensive reform that doesn't care if it's only affordable if you act like you don't need insurance. Well, its number one claim to fame at this point is how many more people it forced onto Medicaid. And that's only because Obamacare kicks tens of millions of people off the plan they liked and were told they could keep but couldn't. So Medicaid expansion was always part of Obamacare for a reason. Democrats knew all along that the Affordable Care Act was unaffordable and they'd need to make Medicaid bigger and more expensive, so when people got their plan kicked to the health care curb, they could still sign up for something, even if it was something as crappy as Medicaid. This is Steve McDonald for Granite Grok, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Earl Hall from The Earl Hall Show, and you're listening to GrokTALK.
Grok TV.